Over the past 20 years, I've conducted initial assessments with more than 5,000 transgender and non-binary adults. And when you see that many people at the beginning of their gender journey, you start to notice patterns. And you all know how much I love my patterns. Not the patterns you read about online. I'm talking about the patterns that show up in my office over and over and over again, but rarely make it into blog posts or even Reddit threads. Hi, I'm Dr. Z, and I work exclusively with trans and non-binary adults. And today, I want to share 4 of the most common patterns I've observed that most people don't talk about. Patterns that might help you as a viewer understand why you're struggling, in ways you didn't expect, or why certain things feel harder than they should. These aren't solutions. These aren't steps to follow. These are just observations from years of sitting across from people who are exactly where you are right now and noticing what tends to show up again and again and again. So let's talk about what I actually see in those first sessions, and I'm going to walk you through 4 most common patterns, see if you can spot a pattern that applies to you, and I'm going to give you tips on how to navigate it, what to watch out for. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please do so. It's the best way you can show your support to me. And guess what? Subscribing to the channel is completely free. It doesn't cost you anything. So let's look at the patterns. Pattern number 1. The high achievers are the most stuck people on their journey. That's right. The high achievers tend to be the most stuck. So if you are a high achiever listening to this, pay attention. Here's something I see constantly. The people like you, some of you who have been most successful in their assigned gender are often the ones who struggle the most with moving forward. Now, you think it would be the opposite, right? You think the people who've been miserable, who've been barely functioning, who've been obviously uncomfortable their whole lives would be the ones having the hardest time. But that's not what I see. What I see are people who come into my office and their resume is impeccable. They've got the advanced degree, the successful career, the stable marriage, the well-adjusted kids. From the outside, they've made it. They've checked every box society told them to check. And now they're sitting in my office saying, I think I might be trans, but I don't understand why this is so hard for me. Other people just decide and move forward. Why can't I do that? Here's the pattern. If you've been really good at performing your assigned gender, you've also been really good at suppressing your own needs in favor of external expectations. You learned early that if you just did what was expected of you, you'd be rewarded. So you became excellent at meeting other people's standards. You got the grades. You pursued the career your parents approved of. You dated the right kind of a person. You built the life that looked good on paper. And every time you achieved something, it's reinforced this pattern. See, I can do this. I'm good at this. Maybe I should just keep going. But here's what happens. That same skill set that helped you succeed in your assigned gender becomes the thing that keeps you stuck when you're trying to figure out your actual gender. Because now you're facing a decision that has no right answer according to external standards. There's no achievement to unlock. There's no authority figure who can tell you that you're doing it correctly. And worse, every choice you make toward authenticity, looks like a failure from the outside. Leaving a marriage looks like a failure. Changing careers looks like instability. Disrupting your kids, disrupting your kids' lives in any shape or form looks like bad parenting. Coming out to your family looks like causing unnecessary drama, looks like inconvenience. So you stay stuck, not because you don't want to, and not because you don't know what you want, but because what you want doesn't match what you should want. And you spent your entire life being really, really, really good at doing what you should. Now, I watch people spend years in this place. They come to therapy, they process, they understand the pattern intellectually, but they still can't move. Because the gap between understanding and doing is massive when your entire identity has been built on external validation. So if you're in this pattern, recognize it. And this is why it keeps you stuck. Pattern number 2. The partner becomes the decision maker. This is for those of you who are in a relationship currently and your partner has become the decision maker. If that's you, please pay attention. This one is huge. And I see it in at least 60% of partnered people who come to see me. You've outsourced your decision making to your partner without realizing it. Here's how it shows up. You come into the assessment and you say things like, I want to transition, but my wife isn't ready yet. Does that sound familiar? I bet it does to so many of you. Or, I'm waiting to see how my husband feels about this before I make any decisions. Or, my partner said they need time to process, so I'm giving them space. And on the surface, all of this sounds reasonable. It sounds even considerate. It sounds like you're being a good partner by taking their feelings into account. But here's the pattern I notice. You're not actually taking their feelings into account while making your own decision. You made their feelings the decision. Let me give you an example. Someone comes into my office and says, I told my wife, I think I might be trans. And she asked me not to do anything drastic while she processes. So I'm waiting. And I'll ask, well, what does anything drastic even mean? And they'll say, well, I don't know. She didn't specify, but I don't want to upset her. So I'm just not doing anything. Do you see what happened there? This person handed their partner complete veto power over their gender exploration without either one of them explicitly agreeing to that arrangement. The partner said, don't do anything drastic, which is vague and undefined. And this person interpreted it as, don't do anything at all. So now they're not researching. They're not exploring their presentation. They're not connecting with other trans people. They're not even allowing themselves to think too much about it, because that feels like pushing the boundary of what their partner can handle. Here's another version. Someone comes in and says, I want to start hormones. And this is a common version. I want to start hormones, but my partner says, if I do that, they'll leave me. So I'm trying to figure out if I can be okay without medical transition. Drop a note right now if this is your example, super common. And then I follow up asking them, well, if your partner wasn't in the picture, would you want to start hormones? And they'll say, yes, absolutely. But they're in the picture, so that's not relevant. But it is relevant, because what you're really saying is this: my partner's comfort is more important than my gender needs. So I'm going to try to make my gender needs small enough to fit within my partner's comfort zone. And that might be a choice you can consciously make. But most people don't realize they're making this active choice. Here's what I see happen over and over and over. You end up spending months, sometimes years, waiting for your partner to be ready. You're checking in with them constantly. You're monitoring their emotional state. You're looking for signs that they're warming up to the idea. And in the meantime, your own gender dysphoria is getting worse. You're not actually addressing it. You're just managing your partner's anxiety about it. And then one of the two things happens. Either you reach a breaking point and transition anyway, which feels like a betrayal to your partner because, hey, you promised to wait, or you don't transition. And that resentment builds up until it poisons the relationship from the inside. Now, I'm not saying your partner's feelings don't matter. They absolutely do. But there's a difference between considering your partner's feelings as part of your decision, making process, and making your partner's feelings the entire decision. Do you see the difference? There's a difference between considering your partner's feelings as part of your decision-making process and making your partner's feelings the entire decision. And the pattern I see, the more you outsource the decision, the more stuck you both become. Not just you, both of you. Because your partner is now carrying responsibilities they probably don't want. They're in the position of being the person who is either allowing you to transition or preventing you from transitioning. And that's not a position anyone wants to be in. Pattern number 3. And this one is the just one more thing loop. So listen up if this pattern resonates with you. If you haven't yet, you're enjoying this, give it a like, comment below. So here's what the just one more thing loop pattern looks like. It's a pattern that's almost very universal, and it's one of the trickiest to recognize because it looks like a progress. You tell yourself you'll move forward once you have just one more thing. Comment below if this is you. It goes like this. I'll come out to my spouse once I'm sure I'm really trans. So you spend months researching, questioning, exploring, and then you reach a point where you think, okay, I'm pretty sure, but I should probably talk to a therapist first to confirm. So you find a therapist and you start working through it. And then you think, okay, my therapist agrees. This seems like gender dysphoria. But I should probably try social transition first before I tell my spouse, just to make sure. So you start using different name online or experimenting with presentation in safe spaces. And then you think, okay, that feels good, but I should probably wait until I have a plan for a medical transition before I tell my spouse so I can show them I've thought this through. So you research hormones, you find a provider, you get ready to start, and then you think, okay, but maybe I should wait until after holiday or birthday or anniversary or whatever comes up so I don't ruin that for everyone. Do you see the pattern? Do you recognize yourself in this pattern? Each step feels like reasonable in isolation. Each requirement seems justified. But when you zoom out, what you're actually doing is creating an endless series of hurdles that you have to clear before you give yourself permission to move forward. And here's what's tricky. Some of these steps are actually very useful. Talking to a therapist is helpful, Experimenting with social transition can give you valuable information. Having a plan does make difficult conversations easier. So it's hard to recognize when you've crossed the line from gathering information into indefinitely delaying progress. Here's how I know you've crossed that line. When you complete one requirement and immediately add another one. When the goalpost keeps moving, when you find yourself saying just one more thing over and over again. I had someone tell me once, I've been in therapy for 2 years, 3 years, heck, 10 years. I've socially transitioned online. I've legally changed my name. I've been on hormones for 6 months. I'm out to my friends. But I still don't feel ready to tell my parents because I want to wait until I'm further along in my transition so they can see I'm serious about this. This is, by the way, with adult parents. And I ask them, what would further along look like? What specific milestones would make you feel ready? You know what? They couldn't answer me because there was no milestone. There was just an undefined sense that they needed to be more ready before they could have that conversation. That's the pattern. You're waiting to feel ready, but ready isn't a feeling you're going to have. Ready is a decision you made despite not feeling ready. Again, ready is a decision you make despite not feeling ready. And the longer you stay in the just one more thing loop, the more evidence you collect that you're not capable of moving forward. Because you keep setting requirements for yourself and then moving them as soon as you get close. You're basically training yourself that you can't be trusted to know when the time is right. Again, this is going to be a long video. All of my latest videos are long because I'm trying to give you more. More expertise information. Stay till the end. I'll help you work through the patterns. Pattern number 4, the fourth pattern that I see. This one is a certainty paradox. This is probably the most painful pattern I see, and it's this. The more certainty you demand from yourself, the less certain you become. Here's how it shows up. You tell yourself, I can't start hormones until I'm 100% sure. Does that sound like you? Drop a line. Or, I can't come out to my family until I know for certain this isn't just a phase. Or, I can't make any permanent changes until I'm absolutely confident I won't regret it. And that sounds logical, right? You don't want to make a huge life decision unless you are sure. That makes total sense. But here's what actually happens. You start monitoring your certainty level constantly. You wake up in the morning and you check, do I feel trans today? Do I still want to transition? Is this feelings are as strong as it was yesterday? And as the feeling is slightly less intense than it was the day before, you panic. See, I'm not sure. I must not really be trans. Real trans people are sure. So you back away from any forward movement. You stop researching. You stop exploring. You tell yourself you need more time. And for a few days or weeks, you feel relieved. See, I don't need to transition. I'm totally fine. But then the feelings come back, stronger this time. And you think, okay, this is it. This is the certainty I was waiting for. Now I know for sure. So again, you start moving forward. You research hormones, you draft a coming out email, you schedule an appointment with gender therapist, and then you wake up the next day and the feeling is quieter. Not gone, but not as urgent. And you think to yourself, wait, If I was really sure yesterday, why don't I feel as sure today? Maybe I'm not really trans. Maybe I just convinced myself I was trans because I was reading too much about it online. So you back. So you back away again. And the cycle continues forward, back, each time demanding more certainty before you'll take the next step. Each time finding that certainty you're demanding doesn't exist. Here's what I observe: the people who stay stuck the longest are the people who demand the highest level of certainty before they'll take action. And it's not because they're less sure than other people. It's because they've created an impossible standard, an impossible benchmark of a need for certainty. You're asking yourself to be certain about something you have no experience with. You're asking yourself to predict how you'll feel about medical transition before you've tried it. You're asking yourself to know whether you'll regret coming out before you've come out. You're asking yourself to guarantee an outcome that can be guaranteed. And every time you check your certainty level and find it wanting, you find it wanting even, you use that as evidence that you shouldn't move forward. I'm still questioning, so I must not be sure. And if I'm not sure, I shouldn't do this. Here's the paradox: the act of constantly questioning your certainty creates more uncertainty. I'm going to say this again. The act of constantly questioning your certainty creates more uncertainty. You're not discovering that you're uncertain. You're generating uncertainty by demanding a level of conviction that doesn't exist for anyone about anything. I have never had someone sit in my office and say, I'm 100% certain I want to transition. I have zero doubts. I know exactly how everything will turn out. And I'm completely confident I'll never regret any part of this. That person doesn't exist. Even people who transition successfully, whatever that means for them, and live happy lives on the other side, have doubts and had doubts. They just didn't let the doubts become the deciding factor. Here's what I see in people who move forward effectively. So don't wait for certainty. They get comfortable with uncertainty and they take small steps anyway. They gather information through action, not just through thinking. Each small step they evaluate and see how they feel. If it feels right, they take another step forward. They allow their actions and how those actions make them feel become the determining factors. But if you're caught in a certainty paradox, you'll wait forever. Because the certainty you're demanding is impossible, and you're using its absence as a proof that you shouldn't move forward. So those are 4 patterns I see over and over again in initial assessments with so many thousands of trans and non-binary adults I've seen. And if you recognize yourself in one or more of this, I want you to know you're definitely not broken. You're not uniquely stuck. You're not doing this wrong. These are just patterns and they're normal. They're predictable. They happen to almost everyone who is navigating a late in life gender realization while trying to keep their existing life intact. The reason why they're patterns is because they happen to so many people to be able to have enough experiences to form a pattern. So you're not alone. But here's what's important. Just because these patterns are normal doesn't mean they're harmless. They keep you stuck. They keep you cycling through the same questions without getting any closer to answers. They keep you in a holding pattern where you're not moving forward, but you're also not okay staying where you are. And the tricky part is you can't just stop doing the things by recognizing them. Knowing about the pattern doesn't automatically free you from it. If anything, sometimes it makes it worse because now you're judging yourself for falling into the patterns you know you shouldn't fall into. So, what actually helps? One of the things that helps is for you to be able to work with somebody who is at least have some experience, who can interrupt these patterns and to create actual movement. It requires understanding not just that you're stuck, but why you're stuck in the particular way that you are. And it requires someone who's been there, who's seen these patterns thousands of times and knows how to help you navigate them. If you're recognizing yourself in what I've described today, in one of those 4 patterns, and you're tired of cycling through the same stuck places over and over, feel free to reach out. If you would like to understand and break the patterns, all of my information is below. Remember, you don't have to stay stuck in these patterns. If you're working currently with therapists and you recognize this pattern in this video, discuss it with your current therapist. Start dissecting it in your current therapy right now. Bring it in. Have your therapist help you get unstuck. If this video was helpful, let me know in the comments. Tell me which questions, which one of the patterns hit you hardest, and whether you were able to break the pattern. If you did it by yourself, please share with everybody how you were able to break the pattern. Love reading your comments, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.